Hi, this is Paula from Replicon. Today I'm going to give you a demo of how you can mass add users to your Replicon account using the Replicon Import Add-in, also known as RIA. This video is about importing user data, but most of the principles I'll go over apply when you're adding other types of data as well. In this video, I'll cover preparing to import, selecting the import template, selecting fields to import, a quick tour of the template, populating the template with data, importing data, and I'll also go over where you can find more information about RIA. Before you can start importing, you'll need to install the add-in on your PC. To install RIA, go to ria.replicon.com and follow the directions you find there. You'll also want to gather the data you want to import. For this demo, I've created a spreadsheet with some user names, and that's what I'm going to import into a blank Replicon instance. When you log into RIA, a list of import templates appears. These are all the types of data you can add, edit, or update. You may wonder what the steps on the left mean. They're there to indicate the recommended order of import. So, for example, you'd complete step 5, which adds users, before completing steps 6 through 14 that assign advanced settings to existing users. Since we're adding new users, I'm going to select the Add template for users. Once you select the template, you'll see a field selection dialog box appear. This dialog allows you to choose which fields you plan to import. You'll see a few fields have been selected by default. These are required fields and must be completed for each user for the import to proceed. Now I'm going to choose a couple of additional fields. Let's add start date. It selects end date by default, email address, and work week. Since we've already discussed templates, you may wonder what this option, import using user data template, means. This is a different kind of template you can create to save time if you frequently import users with similar settings. You can find more information on this in the RIA documentation. For this demo, we'll ignore that option and just go ahead with a standard user import. So I'll click Create Import Template, which will generate the template where we'll enter data. Before I start adding my data, I'll give you a quick tour of the RIA import template. As you can see, all of the default fields, plus the additional fields I selected, are listed as column headers. Required fields are indicated by the red triangle in the cell's top right-hand corner. Only required fields need to be completed for the import to proceed. Other fields you've included in the template can be left blank, and they'll either be blank in your instance or use the new user default value. The first row shows an example. You can leave it or delete it if you prefer. It won't be imported either way. This is the RIA add-in template menu. If you ever get lost in another part of Excel, click the Add-ins tab, which will take you back to RIA. You can also click Import Dashboard if you need to go back to the template list. Click Create Import Template if you forgot to add a field and want to start over. But if your fields are fine, but you want data you've entered erased, you can click Clear Data. Now I just have to add the data I want to import. As I add my users, I'm going to illustrate some data entry tips that make populating a template easier. First, an obvious one. You can copy and paste data from other spreadsheets. You'll notice as I copy and paste data into the username fields, the login names are automatically populated based on the login name formula in your system. If you include email addresses, they'll be populated too. The toughest thing about adding data is making sure options you assign to users exactly match the format of the options you have set up in your instance. RIA makes this easier by presenting you with valid values to choose from, as I'm doing here for employee types. And as this is an Excel spreadsheet, of course you can pull down data in a cell to populate other cells in that column. Some fields, like the department field, offer a link you can choose to select from the options set up in your system. You can also enter values in these fields manually. Just make sure that they use this format. Now I'll just quickly complete the rest of the required fields and the start date field that I selected. In this case, I have to just be sure when I pull down the values that I select copy the cells rather than create a series. Finally, in some fields, you can search for valid values that you've set up in your instance by double-clicking the field. Note that this searches from the beginning of a string only, so you need to know what the value you're looking for starts with for the search feature to be useful. Now we're ready to import. To do that, click the Import Users button. You'll see the status of the import in two places, in the dialog that pops up, and in the internal fields on the right side of the template. Note that this is not an all-or-nothing import. Some rows may be imported while others fail. If the status column turns green and says Success, the data for that row has been added to your instance. You'll see here that we have a row that failed to import. This error message tells us what went wrong. So I'll just correct that row, then click Import Users again. As you can see, this time the failed row was successfully imported. So now that we've added all of our data, let's look in our Replicon instance. As you can see, all the users are there with the settings I assigned. For more information on RIA, refer to https://ria.replicon.com. This page includes links to additional videos and to help topics about using RIA. Or you can always contact Replicon support if you have further questions. They'd be happy to help. That's all from me for now. Thanks for your time.